Every Christmas, we see the same image on greeting cards, in church plays, and on top of our trees. A bright, shining star hovering directly over a small stable in Bethlehem, pointing the way to the newborn Jesus. We accept this story as a beautiful myth, a symbol of hope and divine guidance. But as modern people living in the space age, we need to ask a very uncomfortable question about the physics of that night. What kind of star can move across the sky, change direction, and then stop and hover over a specific building? Stars are massive balls of burning gas, millions of miles wide, located light years away. If a real star came close enough to Earth to point out a single house, its gravity would tear our solar system apart. It would incinerate the planet instantly. So, whatever the Star of Bethlehem was, it was not a star. It was an object, a luminous, intelligent object operating within our atmosphere. Today, we are going to open the file on the most famous aerial phenomenon in human history. We are going to analyze the ancient descriptions of the star found in the Bible and the forbidden Apocrypha. We will look at the astronomers, the Magi, who tracked it, and what they actually knew. And we are going to ask the forbidden question: was the Star of Bethlehem actually a guided craft? Welcome to the Forbidden Antiquity. Today, we look up. To understand the anomaly, we must look at the text of Matthew, chapter 2, verse 9. And the star, which they had seen in the east, went before them, till it came and stood over where the young child was. Read that carefully. The star went before them, it travelled, it led them, and then it stood over, it stopped, it hovered. In astronomical terms, stars do not do this. Comets do not do this. Planets do not do this. Comets move across the sky, but they do not stop. And they certainly do not point to a specific GPS coordinate on the ground. Johannes Kepler, the father of modern astronomy, tried to explain this in the 17th century. He suggested it was a conjunction, a rare alignment of Jupiter and Saturn that created a bright light. But a conjunction is a fixed event in the background of stars. It doesn't move south from Jerusalem to Bethlehem, and it doesn't descend low enough to identify a single structure. The behavior described in the text is the behavior of a controlled vehicle. It is the behavior of a drone, or a helicopter, or a craft using anti-gravity propulsion. Now, let's look at the witnesses, the three wise men, the Magi. We are told they were kings. They were not. The word Magi comes from the Persian priesthood of Zoroastrianism. They were astronomers. They were astrologers. They were the scientists of the ancient world. They came from Babylon, the place where the Watchers allegedly gave humanity the knowledge of the stars. These men knew the night sky better than anyone. They knew every constellation, every planet, every cycle. If they saw a comet or a supernova, they would have recorded it as such. But they didn't. They called it his star, a specific, singular anomaly that they were waiting for. Why were Persian priests following a Jewish prophecy? Because they had access to the archives of Daniel. Daniel, the biblical prophet, was the head of the Magi in Babylon centuries earlier. He likely left them the calculations. He gave them the timeline of the arrival of the Son of Man. But he also told them what to look for, a sign in the heavens. The Magi weren't just following a light, they were tracking a trajectory. They traveled 900 miles across the desert. This journey took months. This means the star was visible and active for a long duration. It guided them by day and by night. This sounds suspiciously like another event in the Bible, the Exodus. When Moses led the Israelites out of Egypt, they were guided by a pillar of cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night. Was the Star of Bethlehem the same technology? A craft that glows with plasma energy at night and appears as a solid, metallic cloud during the day? Now, let's look at the texts that were banned from the Bible. The Apocrypha. The Protoevangelium of James is an ancient gospel that gives us more details about the Nativity. In this text, the Magi describe the star in a way that is terrifyingly massive. They say, "We saw a star of huge size, whose light dimmed all the other stars so that they became invisible." Think about that. A light so bright that it blocked out the rest of the galaxy. This wasn't a distant point of light. This was a massive, low-altitude object flooding the area with artificial luminescence. Another text, the Epistle of the Apostles, describes the star descending and actually entering the cave where Jesus was. It says it had the form of a star, but it became a voice. The object could communicate. It had intelligence. This aligns with the Book of Enoch, which describes the stars not as balls of gas, but as sentient beings. The angels, or the watchers. In the ancient mindset, there was no difference between an angel and a UFO. If a being descended from the sky in a chariot of fire, it was an angel. If we saw the same thing today, we would call it an extraterrestrial biological entity. The terminology changes, but the event remains the same. Consider the shepherds in the fields. Luke chapter 2 describes the glory of the Lord shining around them. They were terrified, sore afraid. Why would they be terrified of a star? You are only terrified if something massive and loud is hovering directly above your head. The text says a multitude of the heavenly host appeared. We interpret this as a choir of angels singing with harps. But the word host in Hebrew translates to army, a military formation. Did the shepherds witness a fleet of craft entering the Earth's atmosphere to secure the perimeter? This sounds like a military operation, a retrieval mission, or a protective detail for a VIP arrival. If Jesus was indeed of divine origin, or a hybrid of the highest order, his birth would be a cosmic event. It would be monitored. It would be guarded. The star was the command module, the flagship of the fleet. Skeptics will say this is blasphemy. They want the story to remain a fairy tale. But looking at the Bible through the lens of technology actually validates the text. It explains the miracles as physics we don't yet understand. If you look at religious art from the medieval period, you see something shocking. Paintings of the Nativity often depict the star not as a pointy shape, but as a disc. Some paintings, like the Madonna and Child with the Infant St. John, 15th century, actually show a UFO in the background. A man and his dog are looking up at a dark, discoidal object in the sky emitting rays. The artists of the past knew something. They were encoding the truth in the images. They knew the star was a vehicle. Let's connect this to the Enoch files. Enoch was taken up to heaven in a chariot of fire. Elijah was taken up in a whirlwind. Ezekiel saw a wheel within a wheel with eyes, portholes, all around it. The Bible is full of descriptions of aerial phenomena. The Star of Bethlehem is just the most famous one. But why does it matter? Why does it change the meaning of Christmas? Because it shifts the focus from magic to contact. It suggests that we are not alone, that we have never been alone. It suggests that the great teachers of humanity, Jesus, Buddha, Krishna, Enoch, were all connected to these visitors. They were star seeds, beings dropped off or monitored by the civilization above. The three wise men brought gifts: gold, frankincense, and myrrh. Gold for a king, frankincense for a priest, myrrh for a burial. But maybe the gold had a practical purpose. Gold is the best conductor of electricity. In the ancient world, the gods always demanded gold. Was it for their technology? Was the gold a localized energy source or a component? We discussed in the Grand Canyon video how the Egyptians might have been mining gold for the gods. The Magi returned to their own country by another way, because they were warned in a dream. Telepathic communication, another hallmark of contact experiences. The star guided them, but it also protected the child. When King Herod tried to find the baby to kill him, the star didn't lead Herod's soldiers. It only revealed itself to the initiated, to those who knew how to look. This implies a selective technology, a cloak, or a frequency that only the Magi were tuned into. Today, we put a plastic star on top of a plastic tree. We have forgotten the power of the original symbol. We have forgotten that we are celebrating a close encounter of the third kind. The Vatican knows this. They have the L.U.C.I.F.E.R telescope we discussed before. They are watching the skies. They are waiting for the star to return, because the prophecy says that the sign of the Son of Man will appear in the heavens again. Will it be a comet, or will it be the mothership returning? Look at the UFO sightings today, the tic-tac, the glowing orbs. They often appear as bright stars that suddenly move or split. Are these the same objects? Are the watchers checking in on the experiment? The Star of Bethlehem is the ultimate forbidden technology. It defies gravity, it defies orbital mechanics, it defies history. But it fits perfectly into the ancient astronaut theory. It bridges the gap between science and religion. This Christmas, when you look up at the night sky, don't just look for pretty lights. Look for movement. Look for the anomalies. Because the sky is not empty, it is full of traffic, and the story of Christmas is the story of a landing. What do you think? Was the Star of Bethlehem a supernova, a planetary conjunction, or a UFO? Did the Magi possess knowledge of ancient technology left by Daniel? And why do religious paintings from the Renaissance depict flying saucers? Tell me your theory in the comments. As we end this year, we have uncovered so many secrets. From the ice of Antarctica to the sands of the Sahara. From the blood in our veins to the stars in the sky. But the journey is just beginning. The files are opening. In the next video, we are going to go back to the physical evidence. We are going to investigate the Peary Race Map Part 2. We know it shows Antarctica. But did you know it also shows the Americas connected to Asia? Does it prove that the continents were different recently, or that there was a global land bridge? You need to be subscribed, because the map tells a story of a world we have forgotten.